Heyo, it's Omnidog on Omnidog's Vault. Welcome to Baturdays in the Batcave. And we were just having a discussion on what the deal is with all these Omnis so that are selling out.
Right. So the one we were just talking about is Sensational She-Hulk. That came out, was that 2 or 3 weeks ago?
I think about 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
And now Morbius sold out, correct?
Yeah.
I'm really wondering how low these print runs are. It has to be, maybe it's due to the whole coronavirus thing. They're maybe hedging their bets and not getting as many books printed. I don't know.
It has to be something with that because in the world before COVID, I don't see Morbius selling out. I don't know that does anybody even know that Morbius existed before this?
Well, there's going to be that Jared Leto movie next year.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be this year, I think, and they got pushed. I can't imagine anyone even being excited for that movie, though. I'm not a big fan of the whole Sony idea of having Spider-Man villain movie separate from Spider-Man. Venom, I didn't even watch the Venom movie. I heard very mixed things. I heard some people say at least it's dumb fun. It just didn't really appeal to me. It looked like the special effects from a 2002 movie, so I kind of steered clear. I'm just not interested in watching a Spider-Man villain movie apart from Spider-Man. That's just my own personal opinion, though.
Yeah, I get it.
It's just weird, but maybe that's leading people to buy the Omnibus because they think they can sell it because there's a movie coming out, similar to CGC stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen speculation on Omnis before this. If that's what's happening in this particular period, I don't know. Maybe because Sensational She-Hulk has sold for anywhere from $225 to $275 on eBay with the original pinkish cover. The one where she's holding up the group and listening to the music, jogging, goes for significantly less. But I wonder if Morbius is selling for a lot.
And who is this even by? Is this for like a much older run? Is this like from the 70s?
Yeah.
I never even heard of this run before this Omnibus even came out.
Yeah, I think it's the Adventures into Fear run. Yeah, it is. Okay, that's going for more like $100.
I always thought Morbius was a somewhat lame character because he was created out of the whole Comics Code game, where it's like we have to have Morbius, the living vampire, because we can't have an undead vampire.
Really? I don't even think I picked up on that.
Yeah, that was a big thing. Like the old Comics Code, as you know, you grew up with that. Is that they couldn't call him the undead, like because a vampire is like it's a dead creature that comes back to life. So they call him Morbius, the living vampire. That he's a vampire, but he's not undead.
I didn't even know that.
I just always found him really lame with I don't know, his design was never interesting. His little disco collar, I don't know why I just never really got into him as a character. I never even watching him in the old Spider-Man cartoons, I always didn't enjoy those episodes.
I actually like Morbius, but I never picked up on the living vampire thing.
Well, we have a question that we were discussing this yesterday, Jess, from Eric Ramirez.
As a matter of fact, I have the book right here.
Oh, you did buy it?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
You guys plan on doing a review on Matt Wagner's Legends of the Dark Knight? I was going to talk about it today. I don't know if we're going to review it. I will say that I did buy it strictly because I'm wanted to get the Monster Men and Mad Monk collected editions because they've been so hard. Let's see, the Monster Men and the Mad Monk stories. They've been out of print in collected edition for so long. There's just no way to get them, and this way you can get them. And it's already sold out from IST. I had to get this from Amazon. So
you always have good luck with Amazon, unlike me.
It did come in perfect shape somehow.
Jess has never once got a damaged book in his entire life.
No, I did get, and this is what it looks like under the slip jacket.
Yeah, I was texting Jess the other day just saying I think being a collected editions person right now is very frustrating because like I was really excited to get the Lady Killer library edition, and that was sold out on IST. A lot of books are selling out on IST. I just think there's less print runs. I think they're printing less stuff right now, or maybe companies are wanting to take less of a risk. So these things are going to sell out quicker and quicker. I think, even faster than they did before.
Yeah, I picked up on just about every. What book was it? Maybe it was Legends of the Dark Knight, where it was sold out on CGN too, and like Midtown and everywhere that I went, and I had to go to Amazon to get it. It was the only place that had it.
Yeah, Lady Killer is available on other websites, but usually Cheap Graphic Novels has books for a decent amount of time longer than in stock trade. So I'm surprised if they sell out quick too.
They've been selling out quick on their stuff.
Yeah, Jess and I are talking a lot about how it's interesting how we're in the midst of a pandemic and an economical recession, but we're all still buying a lot of books. And so we have a lot of demand, but the supply isn't necessarily there.
Yeah.
So it's a really frustrating time to be a comic book collector, in my opinion.
And it is kind of weird that we should be our go-to our default position should be kind of holding on to our money and sheltering in place and not spending anything, but I haven't seen anything to indicate, certainly on the Omnibus collectors page, I haven't seen anything to indicate people are holding back on their spending. I don't know if it's the stimulus checks or they are feeling better with retail therapy.
Or maybe a lot of those people haven't been hit by the pandemic in terms of their jobs. Maybe they're still working, so that can be a good thing. My wife and I weren't hit necessarily by it. She has a part-time job, and then she also does wedding photography, so that part of her business was kind of hit by this. We had a lot of weddings pushed to next year, but we still have jobs, so hopefully a lot of people in the group are in the same position, so they still have disposable income.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yes, Freddie Alonso, I am going to be ordering the Parker Martini edition. I've been looking on IST every single day, hoping that it's still there, because I'm going to be ordering that very soon. I just had to wait because the hard thing was I spent my budget for this month, and then they all of a sudden announced they're releasing Lady Killer and Parker that next week, and I was like, I have to wait till next month. So I'll be getting it very soon.
Yeah. So Lady Killer sold out, but Parker did not?
On IST, at least.
On IST, okay.
And everyone, give me at least until tomorrow to buy it. That's when I'm going to get it. So don't just try to spite me and go buy it right now. They're both still on Cheap Graphic Novels, so if I have to, I can just order off of there.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, I just like ordering from IST because I'm used to them. I've never ordered off Cheap Graphic Novels, so I'd rather stick with a company that I know. And their prices are better too. I know Cheap Graphic Novels changes their prices based off how popular a book is, or how out of print or out of stock it can be on other places. So I'd rather stick to IST where their prices are somewhat set. Raz, oh no, for me it's called bad decision making. I really should be saving. And Jess, I don't know if we can speak to his question after that, if the reprint of the Parker Martini edition adds anything. I don't think it does, at least from what I've heard.
I haven't heard that it does.
I do know the second one's going to be coming out this fall. It's going to have a lot of new material that wasn't in the other books. Because the second Martini edition, this is the first time they've ever put it out, but they have a new storyline from Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, as well as some extras that were never released in those little hardcovers they put out before. So I'm pretty sure the reprinting is the same thing as the first printing.
Yeah, I think so too.
Did you order the Morbius book, Jess, or was that one you skipped on?
I did, because I have good memories of reading Morbius as a teenager.
Okay.
You
love that disco collar.
Well, I just liked that it was the 8-armed or the 6-armed Spider-Man that he fought, and that he had his own series. I don't know. It's just something that I like, that Adventures into Fear run. So that was the part that I liked. I know he had his own separate Morbius comic, I think in the 90s. I didn't read that. I was talking about the Adventures into Fear run, which is the one I liked.
You don't have to defend yourself. If you like Morbius, that's fine. And maybe if you want to sell it on eBay, you can make some money then.
Well, I just am shocked at how expensive She-Hulk, the pink cover, is.
I just never thought of that as a really popular book. Maybe I'm just ignorant of how popular She-Hulk is. I know the Dan Slott run is really popular, and that omnibus is coming out soon. I didn't know that John Byrne's run was really that popular.
I didn't either, quite frankly. There must have been more pent-up demand than people thought.
I think we're going to see this happening a lot this year. And so that's the frustrating thing, is that for people like me who want to stick to a budget, you're going to feel more rushed to buy books that you don't necessarily need to have right now. Or the whole FOMO thing might kick in. You might think, I don't even want this book, but everyone is desperate for it, so maybe I should get it. And so I think this whole pandemic is kind of stoking those fires in us as collectors, the dark side of our collecting spirit.
Yeah. So the only thing I was going to say about this is that if you want, the reason to get it is because of the two out of print books that are collected into it. Now, what book was it that we didn't like Matt Wagner's work in?
The only thing I've read of Matt Wagner is his story, his one-issue story in the 4th deluxe edition of Tom King's run. And that was the only story that Jess and I didn't like, mainly because of the art. And so I wasn't a big fan of Matt Wagner's art in that issue, but maybe it was better years ago. I know he's done a lot of Batman books over the decades, so maybe his art used to be tighter.
Yeah, I seem to recall liking this back when I read it in singles. So that issue is in here.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, just for you.
The cucumber sandwich issue.
Right. The big chunk of this is Monster Men and Mad Monk. So I don't know if you want the thing is if you want to get it, I think it's in short supply. If the only place that has it is Amazon, and Amazon's not really giving it much of a discount. So I'm not trying to create FOMO, but I will say the only way to get those two super out of print Batman stories is through this book. Whether or not you want it or not, I mean, that's up to you.
Yeah, this is a perfect example again of what I was just talking about. Is that it's a book that's like, I don't even know if I want it, but it's gonna go out of print. So you have to decide very quickly if you're gonna buy it or not. And that just frustrates me. It's kind of difficult. That's why that's why the rest of this year is probably gonna be frustrating for a lot of us.
I agree, yeah. I read Grendel back in the day, and I remember liking it in singles. This was way long ago, but I do remember it. I do remember liking it, but I couldn't describe what it was I liked about it or anything. This feels like it was 30 years ago that I read it. I do remember that I enjoyed it. Yeah, sorry, I did like it, Highlighter, but I don't have any collections of it or anything.
And Hayden McGee has a good point. Is She-Hulk popular or just hype because of the MCU? I mean, she is getting a Disney Plus TV show, so maybe that's also stoking the fires of people's curiosity. I'm not sure. I think that's what's happening with Morbius for sure. I think a lot of people were getting more amped up for the movie that's going to be coming out soon, and so that Omnibus became a little more popular.
I don't know.
I have no idea, though. I'm always curious to know how many of these books they actually print. I'd be interesting to know how much these print runs actually are. Like, how many Uncanny X-Force Omnis did they actually reprint? I'd just be curious. A lot of times we think our niche market is bigger than it actually is. Like Rick Remender said, they only printed 5,000 copies of Black Science hardcover volume 3. That's not that many copies when you think about it. 5,000? That's not that. We almost have that many people in our Facebook group.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, 5,000 copies of a book isn't that much. And I'm really surprised that third hardcover isn't sold out on IST yet. I thought that'd be gone like within a couple of days.
This is Black Science?
Yeah, the volume 3. I think you got the DCBS variant, didn't you?
Yeah, but I didn't get it in yet.
Okay.
I don't think it's come in yet. I have a huge stack of books that needs to be filed that I'm looking at, but I don't think Black Science. I would know if it was. Yeah, it's not there. I don't think it's. It hasn't shipped yet. It might be in the order that had asterisks, because Asterix was holding up the whole order, and either they sold out of it or they had the sell date wrong, because I ended up having to pre-order it from Amazon for the middle of July. So I don't know what IST's issue was with Asterix, but it was holding up the whole order. And
The orders have just been slower lately too. I think there's some people ordering a lot right now.
yeah,
There's a lot of orders coming through. And Tyler has a question that only you can answer, Jess, out of the two of us.
oh, this one: how can I read Neil Adams' Batman without the recoloring? As of right now, I think that the only way to do it is the first Bronze Age Brave and Bold has some like Batman Green Arrow, Batman Creeper, things like that, Batman and Deadman. I think those are the only, and it's just a handful of issues, but that's the only way to get any Batman that hasn't been recolored. Like if you're looking for classic Batman with Ra's al Ghul and the Batman 251, which I think was the reappearance of the Joker in the Bronze Age. I don't know any place to find that yet until they actually get to late Silver Age, early Bronze Age Batman omnibuses. I don't know where else to find them besides the Brave and Bold.
How much longer do you think until they start doing Bronze Age Batman? I would definitely buy that Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams stuff for the Bronze Age. I haven't bought one Silver Age or Golden Age Omni, but I would definitely buy those in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I don't know if they keep doing it at 2 a year, it's going to be a long time.
They're still in the Silver Age, aren't they?
They haven't started the Silver Age yet.
Oh, never mind.
Batman and Superman.
I'll be your age by the time that happens.
And I'll be dead. I want to see the.
I'll go to your grave and put the Bronze Age Omnis on your grave.
Thank you.
I'll have them re-exhume your coffin and put them in with you.
It really is like 20 years from now that stuff's going to be coming out. They really need to speed it up.
I almost got they have like a complete collection, like thick trades of the Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil run they're putting out, but it's the recoloring and it looks stupid. I don't want it.
Yeah.
I'd rather wait. I want to read, if I'm going to read a book, I want to read it how it was put out. I don't really want to read one that has a coloring that was done several years ago.
Yeah.
I just don't get that. You guys could probably do a whole show on that on Omnibus Live. Maybe you have already. I can't remember. Talking about the benefits and the negatives of recoloring a book.
I don't know. There's only a few people that like. I think it sounds like Simonsson's Thor rather got a recoloring, and people seem to like it. And I feel like that's the only recolored book that I have heard that people liked. I know people. The majority of people didn't like Swamp Thing Absolute recoloring. That was really drastic. And they don't like the Neil Adams recoloring on Batman. And I know some other things have been recolored. I just can't think of them.
I'm actually a fan of how they recolored Year One several years ago.
Oh, okay. I don't know that I clued into that.
Yeah, if you I know it's a big controversy about the Year One Absolute, which I don't own that either because it was a steep price for how little you got. But they gave you two separate books in a slipcase. One was the original coloring on like the newspaper print, and the other was the new coloring on like glossy pages.
Ooh, George Golston has a comment that's good. The new Tale of the Demon Deluxe is the original Adams and coloring in it. That is awesome to know. And I believe that is what the 3 demon stories in it.
Yeah, again, I would like to read that, but I would like to have their run in like a complete collection of some sort, whether it's an Omni or it's trades or hardcovers. I'd like to have that original coloring, the original run. So whenever I'm 40 or 50, I'll be able to get Bronze Age Omnis.
Well, actually, that reminds me. The only other place you can find it is the out of print run Tales of the Demon. Batman Tales of the Demon has the original stories of Ra's al Ghul and stuff, but I think it's out of print. And this will take care of that because Tales of the Demon will have that story in it, have those stories in it.
And Freddie Alonso says people also hate the recolored covers. Byrne called angry about She-Hulk covers too. I guess he was mad that they recolored those covers.
Did they go back to the original colors? I don't know. I actually have She-Hulk #1 somewhere, and I can't remember if it was this pink color or not.
Oh, is that a flat spine?
Huh?
Is that a flat spine on that?
Yeah, flat spine.
Controversial flat spine.
Which I actually don't care about. However, I understand that people do, and I understand. Yeah, they went to original after his complaint. Okay, good.
Yes, it can be a complicated issue. I think it's a case-by-case basis. Like I think someone said they like the Killing Joke recoloring. I do like parts of that. I like the Year One recoloring that they did. It really depends. I think a lot of it depends on if the original creator is involved at all. But again, Neil Adams was involved in his recoloring, and that really sucked. So it's really case to case.
This is a good point. Simonson's Thor Omni maintains the palette of the 80s. DC's recoloring modernizes the color, which I'm not a fan of. And no, neither am I really.
That's a good point. I think it's the question is, are you trying to make it look like it's a book published now, or are you just trying to maybe touch it up to make it look a little bit better? That's the difference for me, I think. Yeah, I know a lot of people with the Swamp Thing Absolute didn't like the recoloring.
Wait, George was correcting something. No, just the reprint of the saga from Adams to Newton art.
I'm not sure what he's referring to. Maybe we talked about earlier, but I don't remember.
I'm not sure what that one was.
Yeah, George, if you can explain yourself a little bit more, maybe you're just missing something.
I'm sure that it's my fault that I don't understand that question or that answer. Maybe it's referring to something else out in the chat.
Did you get the Swamp Thing Absolute, or did you just stick with your hardcovers?
I stuck with my hardcovers.
Yeah, because Raz is complaining about the binding, which I also heard was a massive issue with that book, even more than the recoloring. I know a lot of people had to send theirs back because theirs was falling apart, which is really unfortunate.
Okay, and let's see.
22 minutes in. Should we jump into the topic? We don't have to, but
okay, so Byrne changed it. Yeah, they went to original after his complaint. Okay. I know that Highlighter was pointing out that there's a Dead Man Omni, which I had heard of, and I'm just wondering if he's left it alone or if they're going to let him ink it up and recolor it. If it's the original Dead Man, that's really cool, but in the Dead Man little hardcover that I have, collection of like the first 12 Dead Man stories, he took the first issue and then he re-inked it and recolored it, and it just stands out really awful with his original stuff that's in there in that Dead Man deluxe hardcover. So I hope they don't let him redo it, because that Dead Man stuff is some of his best stuff.
We have some ketchup in the chat, Jess.
Ketchup? Oh, T-Lar Blunt.
T-Lar, you got to call in and tell us what Batman book you got in.
I just got a Batman book in the mail. Nice. Bat Spurts.
And I know everyone's really excited that Tyler is finally back reviewing TMNT books.
And I just got a request for him to start doing more Friday Action Figure Fridays.
There you go. Now that the tax season's starting to wind down for him, hopefully he can get back to, even though your action figure days are almost behind you, right, Jess?
Yeah, but I could pull some out and still talk about them.
I did send Jess a picture earlier that was posted by Jock on Instagram. They're making a Grim Knight action figure.
Now, what's Grim Knight from?
Don't you remember the Batman Who Laughs? The Grim Knight with all the guns, like the Punisher Batman?
Okay, that guy, right.
We thought he was even better villain than the Batman Who Laughs.
Right.
And the sculpt looked really cool, but we were saying that it's doubtful that the final product will look as good as the sculpt does.
You never know. That's just an action figure, right?
Yeah, it says a figure, so I'm guessing that means action figure.
Yeah. And then you brought up the tragic case of the Black Science statue. Everybody was really excited about because it looked so good. The sculpt did, and then the real one came out and it looked terrible. It was awful. She had like googly eyes in it.
Yeah, that did not look good at all, unfortunately.
And everybody was excited about it. I mean, I remember when that was a hot thing where everybody was just super excited. Black Science had really just come out in the first hardcover, maybe, and people were hot for that statue, and there was so much disappointment when it came out.
Hayden McGee's putting a petition in the chat.
I see that for a Baturdays Action Figure Friday crossover event. Well, Taylor does not collect action figures.
Jess, no matter how hard Jess has tried, though, I've resisted.
You haven't even gotten any of the McFarlane ones, have you?
It's hard. It's like I've said a million times on this show. That's a dark hole. I don't know if I want to get if I want to get trapped in. And my wife is super supportive of my comic books, and she never gets mad at me for buying books. But I know she won't be as forgiving about action figures and statues. I know that she doesn't get it. She doesn't get why action figures and statues would be something that I want in my office. I'm sure you've had that conversation with your wife as well.
She doesn't get it. She doesn't get why I need so many books.
That's never been something she's got on me about. It's more she's like, what's the point of having action? All the posters I have, all the books I have, she's been supportive of that, but she doesn't get the whole action figure thing. But I also have a son who's going to be getting older soon, getting at like a toddler age, so I can start getting him some Batman toys, and maybe I can kind of work my own toys in there, kind of, sponging off of that. So who knows?
Taylor got the Batman Superman book, Time to Relive My Teens.
Oh, nice.
Great book.
Did you get that Omni in too, Jess?
It was. I think that was in the asterisk order too. It's been held up.
Well, knowing you, it'll come in perfect condition. So.
Well, it's coming from IST, so it should. T-Lar said that would be an awesome crossover. Oh, Candace, that's very nice of you. Yeah, I love Walgreens, and their exclusive figures because they're so hard to find. I was so psyched when I got the Stepford Cuckoos through on my own and didn't have to pay a king's ransom on eBay for them when I found them in my own in Walgreens.
Do you miss traveling around hunting at Walgreens?
No.
Oh, really?
No, because I could never find anything. The fact that I found my own Stepford Cuckoos was a big deal. Because I could my Walgreens and my Walmart and my Target had never I've never found anything in them.
Oh, okay.
Stepford Cuckoos was the first thing I ever found. Here's a good point. Where Alex Ross already done a spotlight video. Okay, we can start talking about him. That's a good point.
We do have a lot of books to talk about, so we should start.
We do. And I'm going to be the first to say, I probably won't be the first to say it. This is not a good reading experience.
Would you ever see the one that Omar has?
What's that?
You ever see that huge one that Omar has? It's like massive. It's almost like as tall as I am. It's like a really tall one.
I won't even be able to show art from that because
I have the nice 25th anniversary edition. Look how many. All the white pages are extras. Look how much.
Wow.
Really, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of extras, but this one actually is really nice. And I spent at least 20 minutes looking through these extras. So I love this. Do you want to start with Marvels?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Because this was the first time I ever experienced Alex Ross art, and it was in the early 90s. I remember collecting it in floppies and reading it up in New Hampshire at my in-laws, back when they were alive, at my in-laws up in New Hampshire. And I was amazed not only at the art, but the story, because the idea of Marvels is that it takes place from an ordinary citizen, a photographer's viewpoint, and so it shows a lot of perspective of looking up in the air and seeing all these, even really high up in the air, while you're down here in the ground as a regular citizen. Up in the air, Human Torch is fighting the Submariner, and the effect that all the falling buildings and stuff have. And then that Alex Ross art, that's the first time I ever saw that. Yeah, let me highlight you. And it's just everybody knows how astonishing Alex Ross art is. I personally love it. Some people don't, I guess. They don't like how realistic it is.
Really? I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Alex Ross in my entire life.
I think I've heard one or two people say they don't like it, which I'm always shocked at.
I feel like I know art's subjective, but from an objective standpoint, his art is excellent. It's like, really say I can't imagine someone saying it's bad.
Well, I think it's not to that person's taste. So anyway, it's so realistic. It made it that much more. The art is so realistic, so it made the story more realistic. And then the perspective that they told it from, the normal citizen looking up in the sky, or just sitting there on a neighborhood stoop, and all of a sudden the Green Goblin zips on by. And so it's told not from the hero's perspective, but the regular old human being. Yeah, that's a perfect example right there, if you could hold it up. Perfect example right there of that kind of perspective, because it shows exactly what's happening on the ground. And you don't get that usually in comic books, because it's all hero focused. And this is all.
Galactus issue is, I think the Galactus issue is one of the most beautiful comics I've ever read in my entire life in terms of art. I mean, look at his Galactus.
Yeah.
It's insane. And like Jess said, it's all told from the point of view of regular people like you and me. It's not from the perspective of the heroes at all. So you're always looking up. You're never looking down.
Right. Oh, I hope you didn't just freeze. Oh, Taylor. Dude, I'm sorry you froze. So, well, I guess I can try and show some from my Marvels. My advice to you is, these are coffee table books to look at the art. They are way too unwieldy to actually read. I did read it. I did reread it. Oh, good. Here he is. Okay, good.
I got a new.
I was just saying that those. Got a new what? Oh, goody. But anyway, get these for looking at the art, not for reading. I did read this because it's my only version of it, but it was really uncomfortable and really detracted. But seeing Alex Ross's art in this format is brilliant, and it is gorgeous. And I love being able to look at all the huge pictures, because his art really deserves it. You got a new what?
I got a new box in my basement because it was whenever the power would go out, we wouldn't have Wi-Fi for like days. And so now we got a new box, and it's only whenever I do these shows I have problems for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
And now your voice isn't syncing up to your mouth.
Oh, great. Is it still doing it?
Say something again.
Is it still doing it?
Oh, no, you're okay now.
All right. Okay, it's annoying. I tried signing on to it. We have like two different Wi-Fi signals for some reason, so I tried the other one. Wi-Fi is always fun stuff, like Jess knows.
Here are a couple comments. Ryan Lawson. I've heard people aren't too big a fan of his costume designs rather than the art itself. Okay. And Streakazoid says, I didn't like realistic art when I first got into comics because I had a very limited idea of what comic art should be like. That completely went away the more I got into comics. Okay, good. If you have trouble with the platinum, imagine Omar and his monster-sized Marvels. So that must be the size of the Behold Galactus Fantastic Four that I have. I would have to spread that out on the floor to read, because
it's huge.
That's the tallest book in my collection. Is the Fantastic Four Galactus book.
I think Jess is too afraid to open that up and have another Nemo situation.
Which one?
The Marvels one.
Oh no, I
The
was
big one.
while you were gone. I was showing it.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, and this does have. I wonder. We should try and compare, maybe off air, the extras that it has, because this thing, like your book, half of it is extras. A solid half of it is all kinds of really cool extras, but
Yeah, stuff like this.
yeah,
The covers and things like
highlighting.
that. Like showing how Alex Ross does like the color, how he does the pencils and the inks, and then how he does all the painting on top of it. I really love these extras, and that's coming from someone who's not a huge fan of extras. Show you all the pencils that he does. It's crazy to see the pencils and then see the final product. So I think there's a lot of cool extras in this book for sure.
Yeah, Lloyd Wong says, speaking of pencils, Alex Ross was in advertising for a job, so his attention to detail shows up in his art. His rough work could pass as fully penciled in comics. That's interesting.
Yeah, I follow Alex Ross on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel. There's a lot of fascinating videos on his channel, Jess. You should subscribe to his channel. Him kind of showing you how he tackles different characters, has like one of those like sped up versions of him drawing something. It's just insane seeing how he goes at different covers and different interior stuff. I mean, he is definitely one of my top 5 favorite artists in comics. I think objectively, he is the best artist in comics. But
I don't disagree.
But I think personally, he'd become one of my top 5 reading all these books. The only books that I had read before this assignment was Kingdom Come. And so the other 3 that I've been reading were all new discoveries for me. And Jess, I think you've been bullying me to read this book probably for 6 months or so. And I finally read it. And I'll say this, it's definitely one of my favorite comic books of all time.
Yeah.
Marvel's, out of all these books, I think Marvel's is by far my favorite.
I agree.
There aren't a lot of books where you see the storyline from a regular person's point of view. And it's really interesting to see how people on the ground go back and forth on how they feel about these Marvels. That's what Phil, the main character, who's a reporter / photographer, calls all the Marvel characters. He calls them Marvels. When you see them, they just blow you away. And you see him change his opinion about them as the years go on. As he writes a book, as he does stories about them in the newspaper. And it goes all the way from the 40s, I believe. Is that where the first one starts? From the Human Torch, the 40s to the probably late 70s, I would say. Early 80s, maybe. I think the epilogue probably ends in the 80s, I would say.
I haven't read the epilogue. So
yes. I know you probably shouldn't, you don't want to triple dip, but I think you'd really like this.
I'm going to triple dip because I need a copy that's readable, not like this behemoth that I have to try and lug around. I mean, this thing weighs 20 pounds.
This is a nice, I know our favorite format for both of us is deluxe oversized hardcover. So this is a really digestible book, but it's also oversized.
Yeah.
It's not an absolute or anything like that. So I think this is a very readable version that you should get. And it's Alex Ross, it's Marvels. Don't feel bad about triple dipping.
I won't.
I was really impacted by the issue set in the 60s involving the X-Men.
Yeah.
Where you really see, it's an issue that really speaks to our times right now, Jess. I don't know if you felt that way when you were reading it. All the different, I guess it wouldn't be racism. It's more of like xenophobia of being afraid of this new species of people. And Phil just witnesses all these people going after the X-Men and mutants. And he even finds himself throwing a rock at some mutants as well.
Yeah, that was weird. I forgot about that.
And he kind of asked himself, why do I hate these people that I don't even know anything about? Why do I have this indifference to those who are different than me? And I think that really just speaks to the times we live in, all these different racial tensions that are really bubbling to the surface right now.
Right.
And all the protests and all the riots. It was a really interesting read, at least for me. I don't know if you felt the same way. It just seemed very timely for 2020.
Yeah, I agree. We've read a few things that have seemed timely for 2020.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. Another book we're talking about also speaks to our time in a particular way as well, which we'll get to soon.
Yeah. Superman Smashes the Klan. That's something I read with Kristen. That really speaks of our time right now. I strongly urge everyone to read that book. It's a remarkably well-written book, and it means just as much right now as it did back when it when the story occurred back in the 40s. It means even more now, I think, because we're suffering through some of the same type of stuff. That Marvel's, when I first read it, was I don't like to throw around the word game changer that much, but it was a game changer for me, like Dark Knight Returns was. I was like, yes, this is what a comic book can be. This is exactly what I want a comic book to be, because it changed everything around and made you look at things differently. The story was just brilliantly written with that brilliant art, and it made you look at things differently. And that's exactly what I loved about it. And why it's still in my top 10.
It was really interesting seeing all the major Marvel events from the lens of regular people, like the whole Secret Invasion type thing.
Yeah.
Where the was it the Skrull? Yeah, it's a Skrull coming and they kind of take over in different ways, and they can hide themselves, and you see people's public opinion change about the Avengers. Like, oh, I don't trust them anymore. Then a couple years later, they trust them again. And it's seeing how all these events really do affect people like you and me in the Marvel universe.
Right.
I think it's really interesting because it's interesting to kind of think of yourself in this story, because our opinion of these characters changes throughout the years as well. Maybe there's a year you don't really care about superheroes anymore. You fall back in love with them. I think you can find yourself in these own stories as well, which I found fascinating.
Yeah, good point. Here's a from Sean. This is one of my favorite series too. I really enjoyed Astro City, which is written very similarly to Marvel's. And it's by Kurt Busiek too. But one of my favorites was probably the Tarnished Angel storyline. That was great. Alex Ross does covers for that and helped with the design of the characters, and Brent Anderson does the rest of it. But that I love Astro City, and that also is written by Kurt Busiek, and that's some of my favorite comics around is Astro City.
And I think a common theme through a lot of Alex Ross's books is that you're going to get a lot more out of this book if you know a lot about the Marvel universe. This isn't the best book to start if you're becoming a Marvel fan. I would say this is a good book to read after you have a couple years under your belt. And that's true for most of the books we're going to be talking about. There's one book in particular that's good for newcomers, but that's the only one. So this shouldn't be the first Marvel book that you get, but you definitely need to get it at some point. This is a must-read for every single fan of superhero comics. Just maybe if you're starting to get into Marvel especially, wait a couple of years. But buy it now just in case.
You don't want it to go out of print.
Right. So I think Marvels will always be evergreen in some format. So I wouldn't worry about that too much.
I think it's their Watchmen.
Yeah, it's one of them. Because that's the interesting thing about Marvel and DC. I think Marvel has better runs, whereas DC has better standalone stories overall.
I agree.
They have more evergreen books. But this is definitely the most like DC-esque evergreen story that Marvel has.
Yeah.
And so this is by far my number one pick of all the books that we read for today.
Yeah, I loved hearing you say it's one of your all-time favorite books now.
It's definitely in the top 25, maybe the top 10.
You mean top 10?
It's probably top 10.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you mean that.
Yeah, you must have heard me wrong.
Yeah, that 25. Come on. Then what book would you like to talk about next?
What's next on your stack?
Kingdom Come.
Okay, we can go there if you want.
This is in a much more readable format. I have it in absolute size.
So do I. This show gave me the excuse to buy a lot of these books at once. So I was very happy about that. As you all see over the past couple episodes, a lot of these episodes come out of my own want to justify my purchases.
Right.
This is a gorgeous absolute edition.
Yeah.
Nice faux leather bound book with gold inscription. This is definitely one of the most beautiful books in my collection, that's for sure. And we actually had the writer of Kingdom Come on about a month ago. So if you haven't watched our Mark Waid interview yet, you should check it out.
Right.
And Jess, do you want to show off some art? I think you're better at showing off art than I am.
Okay. And you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. So basically, this is an Elseworld story. This is probably one of the first Elseworld stories to some degree. Maybe not one of the first, but one of the most popular, that's for sure. and it's set in the future when a lot of the superheroes are, I wouldn't say missing, but they're retired to some degree, especially Superman. And this book is heavily influenced by Image back in the 90s. Would you agree with that, Jess?
Yeah, I think so.
There's a lot of newer superheroes throughout the world. There's superheroes everywhere. There's a lot of young punks on the street, not even trying to fight crime, but just trying to be popular and just trying to show off their abilities.
And they fight each other a lot.
Right. And Mark Waid told us in our interview with him that Alex Ross was actually the main creator of this storyline. And this book was his idea. I think this book is a big reaction to the action focus in the 90s with Image books. With X-Force, with Wildcats. What are some of the big other Image books, Jess? I know X-Force is Marvel, and I think Wildcats started as Image, didn't it?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Okay. I don't really read many 90s comics.
Yeah.
It's a big reaction to creators like Rob Liefeld. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Them saying this is why we need the idealistic heroes of the past. We need to have Superman back. We need to have Wonder Woman back. Batman needs to be back. But in the same way, Alex Ross and Mark Waid don't paint these characters as perfect. They are very imperfect, and they make a lot of mistakes. And Mark Waid kind of couches this whole story in a biblical, apocalyptic mindset of there's this preacher who is visited by the specter and told that the world's going to end soon because of a massive superhero cataclysmic battle. And so this has a really big like Revelation type theme. There's a lot of verses from the book of Revelation in the Bible. And so this is a massive sweeping epic with a lot of characters, a lot of different things going on. And I think it's really Alex Ross and Mark Waid's treatise, their thesis statement on superheroes, especially the DC superheroes. And so, Jess, I think I was 6 years old when this came out. So I think you were a little further along than I was. Do you remember reading this when it first came out?
Yeah, I had this in singles and read it. And oh gosh, this is a beautiful shot right here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the first ones that I remember being serialized, 6 issues or however many issues it was.
I think 4.
How much?
4.
4 big issues.
Yeah, they're all oversized.
Yeah. So I waited and read the whole thing together, which is the only way to really do it. And I just, I again was amazed at the storyline and the art. At that point, I knew to look for Alex Ross as soon as I saw it because of Marvel's. But I loved the storyline and how it told the gray-haired Temple Superman's story, because I think this is pretty much his story, and there's him versus Magog, and then you've got Batman and his faction, and then you've got the villains and their faction, and it was all encompassing. It was just a huge, as you say, sprawling epic.
And I think my favorite part of the story, not to give anything away, in the epilogue, there's a scene where Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman sit down at a superhero-themed diner and have a conversation. That was by far my favorite part of the entire book.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of quiet, intimate moments. There's a lot of awesome, overwhelming, spectacle-type scenes that could be in a movie. It's just, I think, didn't Mark Waid say that it took Alex Ross, I think, 18 months to finish this book? It was something like that. Just think about that. 4 issues, so much love, so much attention, so much care went into this book. It took him 1.5 years to finish it. That's amazing dedication. And that's why we only have 4 books here of Alex Ross interiors, because it takes him so long to do this. It has to be exhausting. But all of them are excellent game changers, like you said.
And this has Captain Marvel in it, referred to as Captain Marvel, and so does Justice, which I was surprised at. I mean, I grew up with him as Captain Marvel, and he's also in World's Greatest Superheroes. He's referred to as Captain Marvel, which I think is interesting because everywhere else you read him as Shazam because of copyright issues.
Right.
But in the main book, they refer to him as Captain Marvel and Mary Marvel, and they also use earworms in both Justice and Kingdom Come.
I did notice that.
Yeah, I had forgotten that they earworms played a big part in both of those books to control certain people. I just remember Kingdom Come. That lots of people say it's one of the best things ever written. It's on a lot of people's top 10 lists, and I completely agree. Marvels and Justice are the ones that are in my top 10 list, but Kingdom Come's definitely in my top 20.
And again, similar to what I said to Marvels, this is not a good first DC book.
Right.
You need to read this after you have a lot of DC books under your belt. Otherwise, I'll put it this way. I read this book probably 4 or 5 years ago for the first time. I didn't love it because it kind of went over my head. I was like, there's so many characters, there's so much going on. I read it a month ago and I loved it. And there's a lot more that I was able to catch. You're going to get a lot more out of this book if you have other DC books under your belt. Even though it's an Elseworlds tale, the main DC continuity, I think, is their past in a way. And it will make a lot more sense. And I think they don't really hold your hand throughout this book and explain who every character is. It'll be helpful if you know who each character is because you've read a decent amount of DC books. Would you agree with that, Jess?
Yeah, because Absolute Kingdom Come and Justice and the Justice League story in World's Greatest Superheroes have a lot of Justice League characters in them, like all the way to Plastic Man and Elongated Man and Zatanna and the Atom and Hawkman and Hawkgirl. So it's not just Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter. I mean, they pull into like the backups in these things, in these books, and the more knowledge you have about them, the richer the experience will be reading the book.
And Lloyd Wong has a observation. I'm not sure if I don't think I remember this. Is there a roll call of all the characters in Kingdom Come? I don't remember that. Do you?
I know I remember the original collection having it where they had a number for all the people on the front.
I think it's in the extras, actually. I think it's the extras of Kingdom Come.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I think it is in the extras. But again, I just think you're going to get a lot more out of the story if you have read a number of DC books. I think it'll mean a lot more to you. I think I speak from personal experience that it meant a lot more to me after having a lot more experience in my comic reading life. So yeah, I'm pretty sure, Lloyd, that it is in the back somewhere. It's definitely not in the front, I don't think. I could be wrong, though. I read it like a month ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to kill time on the air looking for it, but I'm assuming that it is. It's on the. It's in here somewhere.
Yeah, someone said in the comments the roll call is in the extras.
Okay.
I do remember seeing that. I can't remember exactly where it is, but it is in there. But even though that does exist, I still don't think it's going to be as helpful as you reading a lot of DC books.
Yeah.
But again, this is a book you have to have in your collection as a comic books fan at some point. Again, I think Kingdom Come's always going to be evergreen, so don't worry about it. I think in some format, you'll always be able to read it.
Yeah, and shout out to Cycle Cleveland for completely trying to derail the chat. Does anyone use a Swiffer for dusting their walls? That's a good question.
I've never dusted a wall before.
I haven't either, but I know that some walls, especially ones that have wallpaper, need to be dusted. So a Swiffer would be good for that. But so far, I've just used Swiffer on our floors, our wooden floors.
And Sean Blackie has a comment about the whole Captain Marvel thing.
I think DC's not allowed to use Captain Marvel for the title of a book, but he can still be called Captain Marvel in the book or something like that. I read about it a while ago, but it's iffy. It just felt like this is the first time for some reason, I feel like it's the Alex Ross books where I see him specifically called Captain Marvel and not Shazam, but I could be wrong. I'm also of the mindset that I'm not a big fan of Captain Marvel being in the Justice League. I'm I can see if you grew up with him in the Justice League, it's fine, but I feel like he's been crowbarred into the Justice League along with Plastic Man, and because those are both characters that were at other publishers that DC bought out and then just jammed them into the JLA. So I've always kind of felt like, as cool a character as Captain Marvel could be, he doesn't really belong in the Justice League. So I've always felt he belongs in his own universe. DC disagrees with me, obviously, and so there he is.
Well, he doesn't really have a massive role in Rebirth or post Rebirth. I mean, he has a Jeff Johns series that's being written right now, but I don't think he's really has much to bear on the rest of the DC universe. Even though his movie was popular that came out a couple years ago, which I enjoyed.
The Shazam movie?
Yeah, the Shazam movie.
I love that movie.
But I think, again, them calling him Captain Marvel is probably credit to Alex Ross, because his work is all about mining the history of these universes. And I bet he probably dug in his heels and said, no, I grew up with him as Captain Marvel. We're going to call him Captain Marvel to be correct. He says Shazam do become Captain Marvel, but he's not actually Shazam. Because Shazam is the wizard. He gives him the powers to Captain Marvel. That is kind of confusing. And do you remember in the movie, did they actually call him Shazam? Anything? I can't remember. Someone correct us in the chat. I know Shazam is the wizard, obviously, who gives him his powers, but I don't remember him ever calling himself anything. They had fake names that he called himself. They're trying to figure. But I don't remember if he ever called himself Shazam or not.
I only saw it once, and I saw it a couple years ago, so I can't really remember that. I would love to see it again.
Cycle, I'm really sorry that your walls are so dusty. Hopefully you can figure it out soon.
I think you can safely use a Swiffer on your walls.
I don't think anything's going to happen to your wallpaper or your painted walls by using a Swiffer.
Yeah, I think you're fine using Swiffer. Seems gentle enough for walls. I would definitely think about that. I love the Swiffer.
All right, so the similar thing for all these books is going to be you have to have them.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, I think that's a given going to all these books. You need to have them. But do you want to go to the next book, Jess?
Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorites, and I read it at least once a year. And as Taylor can attest, I have a terrible memory.
I can't attest to that, yes.
He's constantly telling me.
I quoted something that Jess said in the video the other day, and he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Jess said that yesterday. He's like, I don't remember that.
And he's always telling me, I'm always like, what's the topic again for this week's Baturdays? And when are we doing the interview with so-and-so? And he's like, oh my gosh.
That's why we work so well, Jess.
Sorry?
That's why we work so well. I'm the organized one.
I guess so.
You're like the Kramer of this group.
Thank you.
I'm like the Jerry.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe Tyler Blunt would be Kramer. We'll have to think about that.
I think Tyler Blunt has a bit of a neat streak in him too. So, although I like things neat, but I just don't. I don't know. I feel like I can't. It's like you stick one thing in and something else has to go out. I can't keep it all in.
So yeah, Kristen is Elaine. I'm probably George or Jerry. Tyler's Kramer, and I think me and you could probably fight for George or Jerry.
And Candace is saying yes to the Swiffer, especially in the corners of the ceiling for those leftovers webs. Thanks, Spidey. Nice.
Yeah, Streakazoid. I'm not really sure about the whole Shazam versus Captain Marvel thing in terms of the title. The only Captain Marvel book I've ever read solo title is Jeff Johns and Gary Frank's book, which was kind of the template for the movie. I am excited to read his current Shazam run. I'm not sure when that's coming out in collected edition, though. Jeff is new.
I'm going to kick you out of this chat.
Oh, man. The Newman of this channel is Robert Kirkman, because he's always the one who leaves the dislikes.
Right.
We always say, Kirkman!
Kirkman. Hello, Kirkman. So, Absolute Justice, I read it once a year because I always forget what the plot twist is. And it's quite long. It took me a long time, which I forgot, of course. But it's 12 issues, and it has I don't know. Do you want to talk about it while I show off the art? Anyway, it's one of my.
I can read the back. I can read the summary.
It's my solid. It's a super solid favorite of mine. Top 5 book, and I read it every year because I love it so much.
I can read the summary while you show off some art.
Okay.
They are the world's greatest superheroes, but the members of the fabled Justice League of America are about to learn that they're not the only ones who can band together and work towards a common goal. The world's deadliest criminal masterminds have learned some valuable lessons from their past defeats, and their latest plans finds them acting in concert to bring about total victory for the forces of good. Behind its seemingly sincere facade, however, this campaign to save the world is actually a carefully honed scheme to enslave it by systematically discrediting and neutralizing the members of the Justice League one by one. As the villains begin to gain the world's trust, our heroes must redouble their efforts to expose the truth, to fight for justice. And so this book is very different from the rest in terms of the art because it's not actually penciled by Alex Ross. I was looking in the extras. This is penciled by Doug Braithwaite, and Alex Ross does the paintings over top of his pencils. And so if you're a careful observer of this comic book, it's going to look a lot different than Marvel's Kingdom Come and World's Greatest Superheroes. I know I definitely noticed a difference. Not saying the quality was bad, but definitely looks a lot different. I don't know if you ever noticed that, Jess.
I did notice it, but it didn't bother me. It still felt like enough Alex Ross to me to be awesome.
So in my opinion, I still think the art of the other books is stronger because of that. Doug Braithwaite's obviously an awesome penciler because his book is amazing, but I still think I prefer Alex Ross doing everything by himself.
Yeah, I still like this enough, so that's fine. Art is subjective.
And so I really enjoyed this book. Again, it's the same disclaimer. There's a lot going on in this book. There's a lot of characters. So this probably isn't the best introduction to the Justice League.
No.
That's my personal opinion, though.
I agree.
Again, it's a common theme with a lot of these Alex Ross books. There is a lot going on. You have to pay attention. And Jess is a really quick reader. And he texted me yesterday and said, this is taking me forever to reread Justice. I forgot how dense it is. It's a really dense book. There's a lot of panels. There's a lot of word balloons. It's going to take you a decent amount of time to read this book, which is good. It's not a complaint. But there's a lot of plots. There's a lot of characters, a lot of villains. There's a lot of different crisscrosses, a lot of different twists. So I think it's definitely the most jam-packed of all the books. Would you agree?
I agree.
It's also the longest. It's 12 issues as compared to 4 or a couple other. I think Marvel's is also 4 plus the epilogue. These World's Greatest Superheroes is kind of hard to figure out exactly. I think it's probably 5 or 6 stories. This is definitely the biggest of all of them. And someone says in the comments, Justice is the most superhero-y. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
And Jess, I love this book. It was probably my least favorite of all 4, though. If there's one that I probably didn't enjoy.
Fine. There's a lot of people I can find as a co-host of the show.
But I still think it's an A, though. I think it's still great.
Okay.
It's like trying to pick the best Quentin Tarantino movie.
Okay.
They're all excellent, but I think in my opinion, my favorites, I think Marvel's is my number 1. Number 2 was World's Greatest Superheroes, which we'll get to in a minute. 3rd was Kingdom Come, and then Justice was my least favorite, but it's still excellent, and I loved it. I think everyone should still read it. And it's Jess's favorite, so just ignore me.
No, I totally get it. It's fine.
The one thing about Justice,
picks.
You cannot get you can still get the absolute, but it's out of print. You can get it on eBay, the secondary market. So I got the deluxe edition, which I was perfectly happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I think it's always best to try to get Alex Ross in oversized pages if you can, in the absolute size if you can. But I think you'll be perfectly fine with the Justice League Deluxe Edition. So, Jeff, what do you think it is about this story that speaks to you so much as one of your favorites? Is there something you can point to?
I think the fact that it changes the fact I feel it's really well written, and I still always forget the twist and the extra twists because there's 3 or 4 agendas happening just within the villains, and then there's a couple extra things happening with the superheroes to try and figure out what's going on with the villains. So there's a lot of Batman trying to think a couple steps ahead, and Brainiac and Luthor going at each other, being partners, sort of, and the whole Aquaman thing was. I mean, to make Aquaman such a focus of it, and his son to be such a focus of it, was such a surprise to me. I think the fact that I always, it's so long and it's so dense, and I just forget the plot twists. So it's always a surprise to me when I read it, and it's always delightful when I figure it out. I just find Justice to be a delightful superhero book that hits on all the right notes for me, where you care about each. There's enough time spent on each individual character that you really care about them, especially Wonder Woman in this. And then there's enough time devoted to each character in a 12 issue run that it feels fully formed, and you can you get the sense that it's a real story, and it's not you don't feel cheated out of the ending. You don't feel cheated out of not enough information, and it doesn't have too much information, but it has just enough to keep it going forward, and I just really love it.
Yeah, I think Freddie Alonso definitely speaks to something I was feeling as I read all these books, is that I read them somewhat slowly compared to other books because of how much attention to detail was in these books. These are great books to reread. And
Yeah.
I'm going to reread them a lot over the course of my life because there's so much going on, like we already talked about. There's so much detail. There's no way you can possibly catch everything on a first read of these books. And so I'm really looking forward to going back to all of these. And many times throughout my life.
Yeah.
Do you know if Justice, is this like an Elseworld story? Is this set in main continuity?
I've never heard of it set as an Elseworld story.
I guess I went into that with that mindset, so I was expecting more consequences and maybe even characters dying. And so that there would be times where you would almost see that happen, and then it would kind of be taken back, like a regular superhero story. So I guess I wasn't sure if this is supposed to be Elseworlds or main continuity. Based on how it played out, I'm assuming it's main continuity.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Whereas Kingdom Come is the Elseworlds tale. Hey, Kenny Crayley, how's it going?
Yeah, highlighter. I don't know if Jess and I's relationship will ever be the same after this episode.
Taylor!
I still think it's an excellent book, and you should all read it. I'm not saying it's bad at all. I'm just saying there's an excellent of riches here.
Yeah.
Out of all four books. Yeah, you need all of them.
That's all 4 books are amazing.
Now, if I had made fun of it like I did the Matador all those months ago, then maybe our relationship would feel strained.
That would be different, but apparently Matador is not a good book, and my judgment was not good in that book.
I don't want to talk about it anymore, Jeff. We'll just move on from that book.
That's one thing about Kingdom Come. It doesn't have a slipcover, so it goes a dust jacket, so it goes into the slipcase a lot easier.
The World's Greatest Superheroes has I've never seen a dust jacket on an absolute, at least in my collection. It's a little bit more challenging getting it out of the packaging.
Oh yeah, but Justice has a dust jacket too.
And this book, it's not just tall like an absolute. It's actually wider than every other absolute that I have.
Yeah. That's because the magazine size that these are originally in bigger than absolute size magazine forms individually. I still have them somewhere, but they each came out individually in a giant magazine form that were really annoying to try and store. But that's why it's wider, and I think that the magazine's even wider than this.
And so I think there's 5 or 6 different stories in here. There is Superman, Peace on Earth. There's Batman, War on Crime. There's Wonder Woman, something about truth. And then there's a Shazam story, or Captain Marvel, rather. There's a couple of Justice League stories as well. So there's a lot going on in this book. And I think of all these books, this is by far the most new reader friendly. So if you're trying to get into DC, I would definitely pick up this book because it actually is the cheapest of all these absolutes. It has a $75 price on $75 cover price, but you can find it for a lot cheaper on IST, obviously, with their 42% off discount. So this is definitely the book I think new readers to DC should definitely read of all 4 of these. And it's written by one of my top 3 favorite Batman writers, Paul Dini. I've never read or watched an episode of an animated show that he's written that I haven't enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of my favorite writers by far. Obviously, it's art with Alex Ross. Jeff, did you buy these magazines back in the day when they came out?
I did, yeah. They're the ones that I said I have trouble storing them.
Okay.
Because they are so big, they don't fit in a regular box. You have to, get a box, a long box or short box that's big enough for you to drop them in sideways on the sides of the books. But then there's no protection for them. There's no the cardboard stock paper that you put in a plastic protector. There's nothing like that, so it's hard to keep them in nice shape.
So which of these stories was your favorite, do you think?
That is a good question. I think the Justice League story was my favorite.
The final Justice League story.
The final one, yeah. The other one was a Secret Origins one, which told the secret origins of them all. And then,
right. I think that's a big part of why this is good for new readers, because every single character gets an introduction. It tells you their origin story. That's why I think this is one of the best books you can get if you're trying to jump into DC and become really adept at their universe.
Liberty and Justice is what the JLA issue is called. And I liked it. I liked it just because it seemed to show the Justice League. Superman wasn't in charge, so Wonder Woman had to step in and take charge, and she delegates very well. It's about a plague that is extraterrestrial in origin, that is affecting people in Africa, and the world's flipping out because they're worried about it spreading, similar to today's virus that's spreading.
This story is very relevant to today. I texted Jess last night and said, man, that last story felt like it was written this year.
Yeah.
You feel the same way about that?
Yeah, and the fact that everybody was concerned that the Justice League was working in secrecy. They were trying to prevent people from panicking, but their secrecy in handling it created the panic that they were trying to prevent. Right. So much so that countries sent like fire bombers and planes with weapons on them to wipe the people out that were suffering from the extraterrestrial virus, so that it wouldn't spread. And so that was part of the deal. That was part of the story, that the paranoia had gotten so high that countries were taking matters into their own hands and not trusting the Justice League, which I thought was a really good part of the story, that trust the Justice League, but it was so well written that the Justice League, in the little groups that formed off from what Diana was telling them what to do, they were super effective in what they were doing, and it showed them like the old Justice League I remember growing up, where you would get the task delegated to you, and of course there's the Zatanna, so I'm very happy about that. And Diana did a great job of just seamlessly stepping in and directing the Justice League into their assigned tasks. And there was a lot of quick thinking on their feet. So I think Paul Dini did a great job of writing it. A lot of quick thinking on their feet because time was running out. And of course, the Alex Ross art was just amazing. I especially love how Batman looks when Alex Ross draws him, because and it's always hard to imagine what a man would look like. You can figure out what a man would look like as Superman, and somebody would look like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, because they don't wear masks. But the mask that he draws on Batman just really looks lifelike, and like, yeah, that's what a guy would look like if he dressed up as a giant bat.
Well, in the back of the book, you actually see he actually does photo reference. He takes pictures of people in costume.
Oh, right.
He actually made his own cowl and had someone else wear it, and then he would take photos and then work off of that. So it is so realistic. Yeah, that picture. We do know what Wonder Woman would look like in real life. Just watch that Omnibus live episode from a couple months ago where Jess was dressed as Wonder Woman.
That was October.
Oh, October. Michael Cleveland's confused. He's on Amazon. He wasn't paying attention. We're talking about a story from World's Greatest Superheroes cycle. Stop dusting your walls and pay attention. Yeah, I really like the story because how many stories have we read of an alien entity coming to take over the Earth? Of like endless punch outs, of this big battle. There's barely any fist thrown in this storyline. It's the Justice League trying to use their intellect to solve this problem and fighting against public perception, like you already said.
Yeah.
It's a very unique storyline that I wasn't expecting.
I feel like that's a theme that runs through all these stories in this book. There's not a lot of fists thrown.
Yes.
Especially in the Superman story where he feels powerless in certain dictators' countries, and he tries to figure out a way around it. And it makes you think, which I thought was really well written, because it makes you think, if there was a Superman, if I were Superman, say I was actually given the power and I was Superman, what's the first thing I would do? Wouldn't I go take out those dictators and the people that are in charge of their countries that are so awful to their countries? And in essence, Dini strikes that notion down because Superman doesn't want to take the law into his own hands, wants to do the right thing for the people, but not enrich the dictator at the same time. And he can't be seen as an alien entity enforcing his rule on a particular country or the planet. So I thought Paul Dini did a good job writing why Superman just doesn't go in and overthrow a country and get rid of the dictator that's abusive to his people. So I was really impressed with that.
Right, there's one scene where they say, if you don't leave right now, we're going to kill all these people, essentially,
Yeah.
Superman. And I really like that issue where it was him trying to solve world hunger for a day, trying to feed every nation on Earth, and him saying, this is impossible even for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And how we need the rest of the world to band together to solve these issues. And I really like that we don't need essentially superheroes to solve all of our problems. They're aspirational and they motivate us to be heroes in our own context.
Which is one thing you always say is what you like most about these comic books.
Oh, yeah. That's why I love Batman. That's why I love all these superheroes so much. They should motivate us to be better people.
Right.
And that's why it bugs me in the comic community when we see horrible people loving these characters and kind of using them for their own bad purposes. When you see people who lack empathy, people who don't really care about the problems of others. Are you actually reading these books? Are they actually going into your mind? Are you actually absorbing it? Reading these books should help make you a better person.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion, though. And if that's not happening, you're not really paying attention. And I really love this story of Superman realizing he can't solve all the world's issues no matter how powerful he is. And the same with Batman. I wage this war on crime every single day, and it's never going to be complete. I actually want to read a part from the end of that story that really struck me. I think the Batman story is really well done, and I really enjoyed it. And the ending part was definitely my favorite. It doesn't spoil anything by reading it.
Batman story was your favorite?
I think it was one of my favorites. I think I'm not sure. They're all really good.
They really are.
In the bunch. I love this part at the end, though, where Batman says this after this whole storyline's wrapped up. This isn't a spoiler at all. I know I'm fighting a war I cannot completely win, but there are small victories that encourage me to keep trying. If I can win back one child, there may be hope for many others. If it starts with one person and then a neighborhood, then perhaps redemption can spread through an entire city and finally back to me. Yeah, I love that double page spread. That's what Batman's all about. I can't save this city. I can at least save one person. I can at least help one child not experience what I did. And that should motivate us. I can't solve this world's problems. Even Omnidog can't solve the world's problems. But we can at least affect several people's lives. And in turn, those people can be a blessing to other people. It all starts with us being very circumspect in our own lives, seeing how can we be a hero to someone else so they can go around and be a hero to another person. So that's why I love these storylines so much. It really spoke to how important superheroes are.
Yeah.
So sorry to get on the soapbox again, but that's
no, it's fine.
What made me feel.
I think you're, first of all, it's my channel, so say whatever you want to say. And I think you're right. That's the fun of reading these books. I love comic books of all kinds. Kristen has recently gotten me into a lot of LGBTQ books that have elicited a lot of empathy from me that I wouldn't normally read. And then, so I look at the superhero books differently now. I want to get that aspirational aspect of it out of these books. So I think comic books are capable of a lot more than the average Joe bag of donuts on the street would consider. I think people watching this show and you and I know what comic books are capable of, how deep they can tackle a subject in a way that different art forms can't, and they can really, ideally, they can make a difference.
Yeah, I think essentially at their core, not just comics, but stories in general should engender a sense of empathy in you.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever you're watching a movie, reading a novel, reading a comic, you're giving yourself over to someone else's point of view for several hours, couple minutes, and you're trying to witness the world from their perspective. And so I really think the people who read the most should be the most empathetic in a way, because you're training your mind to view the world from someone else's perspective and not just your own.
Oh, whoops. Don't. Yeah. I didn't mean to highlight that, but I agree with you, highlighter. It was Kenny. I like it when comics solve problems instead of having every battle in a fist fight. There should be more human, more personal stories. I totally agree with that.
And I really like the story of Captain Marvel, where Billy Batson works at a radio station, and he kind of acts like, kind of like Clark Kent, where he says, I have this like exclusive with Superman, where he tells me everything that I need to know, similar to Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
Yeah.
They're saying we don't have an address for Captain Marvel to send him all this fan mail we're getting. Can you respond to it? And it's essentially him trying to help these kids in this home for those who are disabled. And that was a really impactful story as well that I really enjoyed. And so all these stories were good. It's hard to pick my favorite.
Yeah, it was definitely something that I bought because of the art, and it was before I really knew who Paul Dini was. You knew who he was before I did because of the animated series, and I was just bowled over by how great the stories were.
Yeah, and Paul Dini, I think, is a very empathetic human being. I mean, you'll see this if you read the book Dark Knight by him and Eduardo Risso, which is kind of his own personal story. But even listening to him do interviews about certain episodes of the animated series, he'll still tear up talking about the Heart of Ice episode about Mr. Freeze. And that tragic, he even tears up and he gets choked up. You can tell he cares about these characters, and he experiences an empathy even for them. And that's really cool to see. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy him so much and why I think he has written some of the best episodes of Batman the Animated Series. He's created such tragic backstories for these villains and made them seem much more approachable and understandable. Mm-hmm. I think he really brought that to these superheroes too. It helped you understand they're not just gods, they're also humans. Even though, Superman's not a human, but I think Superman's basically the ideal version of what a human being should be. That's what he's supposed to be, even though he's Kryptonian. But I think he really brings out the humanity of these characters.
And I agree with Cycle Cleveland here. Astro City is the greatest example of superhero tales that tell personal human stories. And Cycle Cleveland is also correct that Kurt Busiek is one of the best comic writers. I agree with that. And Kenny says Paul Dini is such a great writer and is still writing comics even today. Yes, he certainly is. He's great.
It sounds like I need to read Astro City.
It's a long series, and it's, gosh, like 17 hardcovers, but you can also get it in trade paperbacks. It's probably better if you want to collect it to look for trade paperbacks, because there's a chunk right in the middle that are hard to find in the original hardcovers. DC has been good about reissuing Astro City, but it hasn't got to the Silver Age Part 2 and Tarnished Angel, maybe a couple of others, Family Album. There are a few that they haven't reissued yet, and so they're hard to find in the secondary market, or they're pricier than they should be. So if you're okay with trade paperbacks, I highly recommend Astro City.
Is it one continuous storyline, or is it stories within that universe?
It's stories within that universe. A lot of them are individual stories. There's I'm sorry, I said Silver Age and I meant Dark Age. Did anybody catch me?
I don't think so.
Good. Yes, I caught myself. It's Dark Age Part 1 and 2. And it's about two brothers, one that became a criminal and one that became a cop. What was your question? Oh, yeah. It's individual stories, but it does refer back to some things, but for the most part, it's all individual arcs. As sometimes a book will have 2 or 3 individual stories in it. And sometimes it'll have one standalone story in the whole book.
What publisher is that?
It is DC now.
Oh, it's DC. So Raz says, is there any chance for an Absolute or Omnibus? I mean, I can't speak to that because, again, it's DC. You never know what's going to happen. But who knows? Maybe.
I would think that would be a great candidate to be omnibized. They own them through their buyout of Wildstorm. So, I don't have them down here anymore. They're upstairs. But this would drive people with non-matching spine disorder crazy, because it's got like Wildstorm. Wait, what was Jim Lee's imprint? It wasn't. Maybe it's got Image, Wildstorm, DC, Vertigo. I don't know. It's a whole mixture of publishers on it, and DC's reissuing it now as DC, but they reissued it as Vertigo. So now even within just the DC reissues, you've got Vertigo and DC.
I have an impossible question for you, Jess. What is your favorite of Kurt Busiek's books, Marvels or Superman's Secret Identity?
Ooh,
that's a really hard one.
Gosh, I love Secret Identity so much.
I think I might have to go with Marvels. It's really close. It's neck and neck.
Those are the 2 of the best comic books ever written. That is a difficult choice. Gosh,
that is really hard. I almost feel bad picking one. I almost feel guilty. I said Marvels. I don't know. They're both really good. I think Secret Identity is by far the best Superman book I've ever read.
Yeah,
it's not even close to me.
I guess Marvels.
Okay, I think I might have to pick Marvels too. That's the one that came to my mind first. So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I would think. It depends on if it gets omnibized. It depends on the. Well, I was going to say it depends on the sales, but then they put an Omni in for Red Hood and Detective from that nobody cared about.
Deathstroke by Tony Daniel. No one cared about that either.
Nobody cares about those, and yet they did it. And I guarantee that Astro City would get some people buying it if they came out in 2 or 3 Omnis.
I'm definitely interested. Candace has a really good question for us. It's tied back to Alex Ross.
Obviously, you guys are big fans of Alex Ross. If you were an editor, which writer he hasn't worked with would you pair him up? Does he work with Greg Rucka?
I would say Jeff Johns.
Oh, Jeff Johns would be good.
They're both encyclopedic in their DC knowledge. So if it was a DC book, I would say Jeff Johns. If you know what, if it was Marvel, it'd be interesting if him and like Donny Cates did a book together.
Hmm.
Because I mean, him and Mark Waid have already done one. Because Mark Waid's still at Marvel. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I think Jeff Johns is the obvious choice in terms of DC.
Highlighter answers Candace. No, you were asking Justin Taylor, but I think that art would be awesome with some Ed Brubaker criminal one-shot stories.
Okay. Ed Brubaker's my favorite writer, so I would never say no to that.
Tom King. I would say yes to anything by Tom King. That would be good.
I'm guessing, I don't know how to say his name. Ms. Carmel.
Oh, Ms. Cameron.
I guess they're saying Aaron. Jason Aaron, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Here's a tough question. Is Secret Identity better than Superman Birthright?
I think it is, in my opinion.
And Birthright is an awesome story by Mark Waid.
In my opinion, Secret Identity is the best Superman story ever. It's not even close. My top 3 are probably Secret Identity. I gotta look back at my Secret Origin. I really like American Alien.
I do too.
That's at least in my top 5. I'm still sticking with Secret Identity though.
Yeah, and then All-Star Superman would be the one that rounded out the top 5 for me.
Secret Identity gave me a greater love for Superman I didn't have before. No other book has really done that for me. I wasn't a huge fan of Superman until like a couple years ago, and Secret Identity really brought that out in me.
Yeah, Raz, we haven't read that. And did he do the writing for that? We were focused mostly on his art. I think he did the writing for that universe. I had those books and I sold them because I just realized I was really never going to read them.
I haven't even heard of those. The Earth X stuff?
Earth X.
Oh, I think he did the covers for that and the designs.
He had something going on in him, yeah. Oh yeah, Psycho Cleveland. Whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow? That's actually in my top 10.
I've never read that story, Jeff. I have to read that. Never read it.
Oh, Uncle Sam. Wait, I have Uncle Sam. Where is that? I forgot he did interiors. Where the heck is that?
Oh, he did do interiors for that.
Yeah, here, wait a sec. Good call.
I thought these were the only 4 books he did the interiors for. At least of the big 2, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's right.
What's Uncle Sam?
About Uncle Sam.
What is Uncle Sam?
I'm going to try and read to you. It doesn't have a... You
taking the cellophane off?
Oh, I should have muted it.
The sound of shame of Jess taking cellophane off a book he's probably had for 5 years.
Whoops, there's still a piece on it here.
Is Jess a real fan of Uncle Sam? I don't know.
I am. I read it in singles and bought the book. Clad in star-spangled rags, a mystery man named Sam wanders the streets of an anonymous American city, struggling to remember his true identity and the purpose in his life. But he's plagued by inner voices, and a parade of icons come to life that carry him on a time-traveling journey into the dark heart of America, hinting at his own violent past. Is he Uncle Sam or one of us, U.S.? And I'll show you some of the art.
Wait, so what publisher is this?
This is DC.
Oh, DC, okay.
Vertigo, I think. Yeah.
Interesting. Is it really good?
I remember liking it a lot. Steve Darnell wrote it.
Is it easily accessible, or is it out of print?
That's a good question.
My three least favorite letters in a row. OOP. Drives me insane.
While I'm showing art for it, why don't you look it up on Amazon and see what it says? Uncle Sam, the Deluxe Edition. Good call, Freddie. I forgot about this book.
When did this even come out? Do you know?
Let's see. Originally 1997.
It looks like I'm not seeing it as available on Amazon. Look on IST. That's usually not a good sign. Amazon's usually the one that always has books.
Yeah.
They're in print. Yeah, I'm not seeing it on Amazon. I'm not on IST either. So it's probably out of print.
I think it probably is. Shoot, so I tore the cellophane off a book I could have sold for $400.
That'd be hilarious if you checked eBay right now. And it was like $500 for that book.
Well, I wouldn't sell it because I like it too much. I remember liking it a lot when I read it. Obviously, it's been a while since I bought it and read it.
Psycho Cleveland. I have read the first volume of Stray Bullets and I loved it. And Jess and I are going to read it on Crime Corner sometime in the near future. I'm not going to promise when, but it's definitely going to be coming. So be on the lookout for that.
What's our read through of Captain America going to be? Just a read through?
Yeah, we need to discuss how we want to do that readathon for Crime Corner.
Oh, is it going to be a Crime Corner one?
I think so. I think it's like an espionage spy book. We just can't let the Omnibus jump in too.
Oh no!
Like with the DD readathon.
Yeah.
Don't tell Gabe, everyone.
Yeah. Freddie says, "Nah, I got it from eBay for less than $10."
Okay, so you're not seeing on the gold mine. Sorry, Jess.
That's cool.
Jess's dream project: Alex Ross art with story and words by Neil Adams.
Oof.
Yikes. And Kenny Crayley has an idea for a topic video for us.
Superhero costumes for one topic you guys should do is superhero costumes for film and TV.
Like our favorite costumes? Like our favorite and least favorite? Is that what you mean, Kenny?
They've certainly gotten better. Like just the Flash TV series alone has great costumes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the worst superhero costume ever on movie or TV. I had to think about it.
Catwoman, Halle Berry's Catwoman.
Yeah, that was just terrible all around. Had nothing to do with Catwoman at all. The main character wasn't even Selena Kyle, I don't think. Was she?
I don't think so. I never saw it.
I saw a trailer and that was enough to dissuade me. Jess is notorious for being able to see the trailer for a movie is bad and steer clear.
Lou says the same thing about me.
Haven't you like not seen a lot of the worst superhero movies because you steered clear because of the trailer?
Yeah, Green Lantern I missed.
Yeah, that you didn't miss much there. I love that part of Deadpool 2, but Deadpool 2 at the end where he kills Ryan Reynolds as he's about to sign on to do Green Lantern.
I'm finally gonna make it big. Yeah. So yeah, Uncle Sam, and then Freddie says he's done some stuff for Dynamite. I know he did the covers for that Project Superpowers book. I know he did a lot of covers for Dynamite. Meteor Man, I never saw that.
The Meteor Man. Did you ever see that original Fantastic Four movie back in the 90s? I heard that's really bad.
Oh, the Roger Corman one?
Yeah.
I don't think they ever released it.
Oh, really?
No, I think
okay.
they did it so they wouldn't lose the rights to it. But then they never released it.
Psycho Cleveland, you need to get Ed Brubaker book A Complete Low Life to see how Stray Bullets inspired him. Yeah, I know Jess has Low Life. I don't have that. I need to get that off eBay or something.
Yeah.
I know it's not in print. I don't think Ed Brubaker wants it in print anymore, from what I've heard him say.
Oh, really?
He said he likes that there's like a book from his past that's hard to find and people have to work to get. Yeah, I've heard Stargirl's really good. I don't know if I'm going to check that out. I'm kind of CW'd out, but I've heard a lot of good things about Stargirl. And Raz, we're not covering Marvelosity and Mythology because those are more like art books, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
We're more talking about the work he did for interiors for actual comic books. Even though I'm sure that Mythology and Marvelosity are cool books. Do you have those, Jess?
I don't, but I've really thought long and hard about getting them both.
Okay.
Just because of how, with the Alex Ross art, I have thought strongly about it. and I totally flaked and did not make the slideshow of the Alex Ross exhibit, but I will do it for the next Baturdays, and we'll just tag it on as an extra.
That's
I
fine.
went to 2 years ago. I went to an Alex Ross exhibit. Where was it? It was in some really tiny town, and I forget why it was in that tiny town, but it was in their museum, and it was a bunch of unpublished. It was all unpublished stuff, like Batman versus Darth Vader and things like that. Fully painted covers that were on display, and there was 2 or 3 rooms, and they asked you to not take pictures. Well, I took pictures of every single piece in there.
You like this, taking pictures?
Yeah, exactly. And I will put together a slideshow and show it next Baturdays as a tag on.
So in 2 weeks from now, we'll see that happen.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a really good show, Jess. I had a lot of fun reading all these books. I'm glad I finally had an excuse to buy all these.
Well, good. These were all A+ books, so I'm glad you enjoyed them.
Yeah, I loved every single one of them. I think you all need to get them, but just be aware that some of them are a little less new reader friendly. That's just my one warning for everyone. But they're all excellent.
Wait, you sent just the links to those, but he didn't get them. Links to what, Freddie? What are we talking about?
I'm not sure.
He sent just the links to those, but he didn't get them. They're so good.
Maybe we can go up and see some context.
From
Freddie.
The other thing he's talking about was...
I'm not sure, Freddie. Let us know.
Uncle Sam.
Solve this mystery before the show ends, Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie, what do you... Oh, Marvelocity and Mythology.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm definitely interested. I don't really have many art books. I know Jess you're not... I don't know if you're a huge art book collector, are you? I know Jess... I know Gabe is.
Yeah, he's more of an art book collector than I am, and same with Omar.
Omar collects everything, so...
Yeah.
He pretty much gets everything, so that's a little bit different.
Okay, Freddie, I remember that now. I think I did get those, and I just haven't had a chance to spring for them.
Freddie, just reference back to earlier in the video where Jeff said he's a terrible memory, and that'll make sense.
Yeah, so thank you to the chat. This was great having everybody in the chat. You guys were all great. Good to see everybody. I appreciate your tuning in.
And Jess, we have some exciting stuff coming up soon, don't we?
Do we? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Should we say what's dropping tomorrow on your channel?
Sure.
So at around 2 or 3 o'clock tomorrow, Jess is going to drop an interview that we did with Cy Spurrier yesterday. So we're really excited about that. We have another interview with the creator coming up in a few weeks that I don't want to say anything yet because I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to get people excited and not have it come through. But we have a lot of exciting shows coming up that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope you are as well.
And thank you to Nate Burkholz, who's right there saying he's #1. He wrote the theme song for Omnidog's Vault, which is a great song. It's this Wednesday we're having a Crime Corner on Daredevil.
Yeah, so we're actually going to have a live show of Crime Corner this Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And the resident expert on Daredevil, Tim Burnham, Nerd of the Note, is going to join us as we talk about the readathon that Jess finally finished, and that is Bendis and Brubaker Omnis. So we talk about that on Crime Corner Wednesday night, live show, 8 o'clock. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we need to talk about it before I forget them.
Yes.
Right. So thank you, Taylor, for being my co-host on this. This was a fun show. Thank you to the fans. Thank you to people viewing this afterwards. And everybody take care and be careful out there. Wear a mask. And peace and love. Peace and love.
See you guys.